It's still December 10th, 2025. We're just doing another one of these where I read a non-spoiler review, early review I should say, for Platform Decay by Martha Wells, because again, I and other people have been saying this shit for years, but what little of the fandom remains, because they've driven almost everybody else away, they just keep denying it. It's the writing is on the wall, as the saying goes. I don't know what the hell that's from. Dyslexia does not like the title of this website. Okay, it's reviews.metaphorosis.com/review/platform decay Martha Wells. The last part has dashes in between. I thought I was reading that as metamorphosis, but it says metaphorosis. This review, I'm not sure if it's one. I've never been on this website before now. Not sure if this is a website run by one person. I guess it is, because it doesn't list a specific reviewer on this article thingy. Okay. This review was published on November 24th, 2025. It's for Platform Decay. They gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Formatting's a little bit weird. The summary is, Murderbot has been asked to rescue some humans from a vast artificial torus circling a planet. Naturally, things go... Okay, tinnitus. Sure, I guess. Naturally, things go wrong very quickly. Okay. The specification of it being a torus is, again, not good. I very much doubt we're gonna be doing... just go read the Imperial Raj series, including Translation State. Why are we specifying it's a torus? Are we just gonna be ripping off of Translation State? Is that gonna be the fucking plot, that we're ripping off Translation State? A torus, for the people who don't know shape names, that's the shape, that's like the shape that a donut makes. It's a ring, like a donut. A 3D ring like that. That's what a torus is. Torus. We're not talking about the Pokemon. That's a Tauros, or the Zodiac thing. Torus, the shape. It's just call it a donut. The review is, Murderbot is ... fine. Well, actually not fine. It's dealing with repeated emotional status checks now, which seem to irritate it. And okay. In the summary that I read, I thought that Murderbot somebody else was saying that to Murderbot, but now it's... Okay, I guess we'll just find out when the book actually comes out. Not that I'm going to be spending money on it. We're getting it when it's either free from Tor, because they do that all the time, or when we can just, walk into Goodwill and get it for $2 in perfect condition because it was read exactly. Actually, no, because, yeah, as I said, the person that had our copy of All Systems Read, they donated it after they got 50 pages in because they left their bookmark in. Anyways, the story, though, is fine. Unfortunately, I mean that in the sense of, sure, good enough, rather than exceptionally good quality. Yeah, that's kind of how this yeah. There's nothing wrong with Platform Decay, but it also does very little to move Murderbot's own story forward. It's an adventure with Murderbot in it, rather than a development of the character. Yeah, even though the character's development is the only thing that is keeping anybody reading the fucking series, because again, the only reason so many people have stuck around this long is that we were assuming, hoping, projecting our own goddamn basic morals onto the story, and hoping that Murderbot, being a fucking serial killer bigot in book 1, was there on purpose to criticize that. But no, Murderbot is literally never going to stop being a fucking serial killer. and is never going to stop being a bigot, because Martha Wells doesn't want to stop being a bigot, and she literally does not believe in character development. Anyways, I will stop ranting and I'll actually read the thing. With all its ups and downs, that seems more and more where Murderbot is heading. That worked for Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I don't know what that is. I presume it's xenofiction of some kind with a grey cat. That worked for Fafhrd. I don't know what that is. And the Grey Mouser, and a host of other adventures, but they were set up as adventures, not character explorations. Murderbot is the opposite, and without a character payoff, it doesn't really work. Again, yeah, the plots for these things are just meaningless. They don't actually mean anything. They're, like, it's an insult to, I'm not even joking when I say this, it's an insult to Pulp Fiction, actual Pulp Fiction, to compare this to Pulp Fiction, because yes, a lot of the 1930s and that whole era of science fiction and fantasy stories, yes, they're extremely bigoted because they were written by extremely bigoted people, but, like, they have plots. They have actual plots. The characters actually develop, even in the short stories, even if that is the only short story they ever appear in. That's not the case for Murderbot. It's been 12 fucking stories so far. The plot is muddled. It's fine in its overall outlines. Murderbot has to rescue some people and things go wrong, but murky in how and why it's happening at all. Yeah, that's also what happened at the end of book 1, because I guarantee you, if you were able to poll everybody in this fandom and ask them to describe, well, I guess it wouldn't be a poll. If you did a survey and asked all the people in this fandom how the villains were defeated at the end of book 1, I guarantee you less than 1% would be able to tell you that the protagonist told them they were going to blow up the bad guy's bomb, so the bad guys ran to stare at it and just stood there doing nothing until they got exploded for no reason at all. Nobody would be able to tell you that's what actually happened, because it's so horribly written with no descriptions whatsoever, and trying to grasp what is going on just makes your brain cry, because it literally doesn't fucking make sense. So people just accept the fact that they have no idea what's going on. Like, literally, you can see reviews, people saying this. But murky in how and why it's happening at all. So again, we're just gonna have random shit like that, where the villains literally get told, hey, we're gonna blow up your nuclear bomb. And then they sprint over to the nuclear bomb to stare at the nuclear bomb that they were just told was gonna explode. That's also just kind of what's going on in System Collapse, because, like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's just terrible. For me, that underlines one of Murderbot's flaws. I enjoy the stories, more or less, but find it hard to remember the difference between one episode and the next. This story won't change that. Yeah, again. That's why I keep complaining that the titles are, like, worse than useless, because the titles don't convey anything about the story that is actually contained in them, and then the plots themselves are also so shallow and interchangeable that 90% of people in this fandom could not put these book titles in the correct order, or even tell you the correct order of events without having to literally reread the whole series and write it down as they went along. We do have the aforementioned emotional checks, and that's a true change in Murderbot's outlook. And we do see a continued softening / self-awareness / empathy in its interaction with humans. But it didn't feel to me like there was any real purpose to it at all. Any clear path towards Murderbot's future. It was sardonic and sarcastic, it tapped into feeds and circumvented security systems, and it reluctantly saved some humans. Just like it always does. And it's like, yeah, because the story isn't going anywhere, and it doesn't want to go anywhere, even though Martha Wells, she promised us all it was going to go somewhere. She didn't have to make that fucking promise, which I realized, like, 20 minutes ago, that promise was literally made 5 years ago and 5 stories ago. There have been 5 fucking stories that have come out since she made that promise, and every single one of them breaks that fucking promise. It's been 5 years since she said that. It has now been longer since she made that promise than the series was even old when that promise was made in the first place. Because when she made that promise, the series was 3 years old. It's now 8 years old. It's literally been longer since she made that promise that she keeps refusing to keep. Because she doesn't actually want to challenge the status quo in any way, even inside a fictional world that she created. She's that fucking racist. I guess what I'm saying is that while reading the story was an enjoyable, quick read, it's not really satisfying. I'm starting, and then in parentheses, continuing, end parentheses, to lose patience with the level to which the wildly successful Murderbot franchise is being stretched out. A few more like this, and we'll be very much in Vlad Taltos territory. I don't know who that is. I presume I will get many angry reviews if I look it up. I hope that doesn't happen, but at the moment, all signs are pointing that way. And then the last thing is, I received this book for free in exchange for an honest review. Yeah. I'm gonna see if they also have any other reviews for the series, and I'll link to you to this website. What did I click on? Alright, hold on. Can I click? Oh, they read Emily in the Sky World. Even I haven't been brave enough to do that yet. And by brave, I mean, like, that melted my brain the first time. And that's not a compliment. What is happening? I'm clicking things, apparently. Can I scroll up? Oh, they have a review for Witch King. That'll be really fucking funny. Yeah, let's see the review for All Systems Red. This was published September 10th, 2018. I'm saving all of these to the Wayback Machine, first of all. If you don't have the Wayback Machine's official extension yet, you need to fucking get it. And anytime you see that a page has not been saved to the Wayback Machine, you need to do it. Because it's ridiculous. Okay, so their review for All Systems Red. So let's look at the very first book in the series that they left a review for. Let's see the difference in enthusiasm, if there is any. This one they gave 4 out of 5 stars and said, the summary is, a security cyborg leashed out by its parent company is able to circumvent its governorship, giving it substantial freedom of action to the surprise of its colleagues and those who attack them. Alright, we're already off to a bad start. We're referring to Murderbot's literal slave owners as its colleagues. Alright, okay, let's see the review. Honestly, the description of... Okay, I'm not sure if my phone did something, but it stopped the video. Anyways, yeah. Starting off badly, referring to Murderbot's literal slave owners as its colleagues. Review. Honestly, the description of All Systems Red didn't seem like my kind of thing, but Tor was giving it away for free, which I think is fucking hilarious. And I like Martha Wells, so I picked it up. The gamble paid off. Okay, I knew that they were giving away these books for free right before Network Effect came out. I had no fucking clue they were giving away the entire first book for free in 2018. That is fucking hilarious. Oh my god. Literally that, okay, so that explains why so many people read the first book in the first place, because they were literally giving it away for free a year after it was published. That's how bad it was doing. Oh my god. I've been a fan of Martha Wells since City of Bones and The Element of Fire. Lately, though, I've been underwhelmed, and then in parentheses, e.g. by the Raxura and Emily. I'm glad, then, that the Murderbot Diaries sees Miss Wells coming back full force, if in an unaccustomed genre. And it's like, I won't get into it. Okay. Short version. Emily in the Hollow World is so fucking boring that it's just so fucking boring. It's so boring and such shit that I laughed exactly one time, and that was when I wasn't supposed to laugh because the character, like, got smacked in the face by something and it wasn't meant to be funny, but I hated the goddamn book so much that just made me laugh because it's so terribly written. Emily is the most passive protagonist I have ever seen in my entire fucking life. That book literally defined the concept of passive protagonist for me because she literally might as well not exist. I had no idea what people were talking about when they were calling things and talking about passive protagonists. If you need to know what passive protagonist means, read Emily in the Hollow World. Don't spend money on it. Borrow it from your local library or borrow it from the Internet Archive. It's astounding. In All Systems Red, the Murderbot protagonist has just the right mix of glum realism and mordant humor. The science is left in the background. That the Murderbot is remarkably human is part of the context, and best left unexamined. What does that fucking mean? The character, however, is spot on. Capable, disaffected, self-deprecating, and funny. I love it every time somebody leaves a review pointing out that this is literally just a fucking comedy. It's a great combination. There's enough plot and action to keep the story moving, but the focus is deservedly on the Murderbot itself. My only criticism, really, and then, in parentheses, aside from a too few many parenthetical asides, end parentheses, that's ironic, because that's what parenthetical means, putting shit in parentheses, is the brevity of the story. It is, and is clearly intended to be the first of a series, but the piece ends somewhat abruptly. It could have easily gone well beyond its novella length, but this first episode is fairly satisfying, and they said, I received a free copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. Okay, so I'm not sure if they... Okay. So I guess they were... What do you call it if you're giving the book away for free, specifically to guarantee reviews after it's already published? Because that can't be an advanced reader copy. That's a... What do we call that? A BRC? Belated reader copy? What does that mean? I feel like at some point I just need to do a deep dive on, like, the exact timeline of all of these fucking events with this publishing shit, because it's so revealing of so many things. So, a year after the book was published, you're telling me that they were, again, giving it away for free in exchange for reviews? So the numbers that I was literally just quoting for the other video of 335,000 people that read it, you telling me most of those people literally only got it for free and weren't forced to make a review in exchange, and not that they would have actually picked it up on their own? Okay. Alrighty. That's something. Alright, I have successfully saved this to the Wayback Machine. We're just gonna read them all, and then I'll link all of these in the description so you can read them yourself. I don't think they have reviews for all of them. They don't have a review for Artificial Condition. Or the third one, which is Rogue Protocol. So we go All Systems Red, then Exit Strategy next. Alright, so we're just skipping to book 4. This one got, is that 3.5? They have, oh, okay, if I tilt my head, I can see the very faint outlines of that star. This review was published on June 20th, 2021. It has 3.5 stars, if you hover over it, it tells you. Okay, let me get a drink first. Hold on. Also, just as an aside PSA, if you shop at Aldi, they have some peppermint, not actual Oreos, store brand Oreos that are like candy cane flavored. Don't get them because like they taste good, but I guess they like literally just ground up some candy canes or something, because the cream itself, it's just white. It doesn't look like it's got pieces of candy cane in it. But, like, you'll get the weirdest, most fucked up texture of, like, tiny microscopic slices of candy cane, and it's fucked up. it's very bad. I don't know how they managed that. Like last year, our mom made whoopie pies by peppermint whoopie pies by grinding up peppermints into the icing, and they didn't have this texture. So I don't know what they did. Don't buy them. Just get other store brand versions. Don't buy actual name brand Oreos. They I don't remember who owns them, but they all suck. I didn't even get a drink in my drink. Hold on. Oh boy. Alright, so Exit Strategy, which is book 4, because they don't have reviews for books 2 or 3, which is fine. This review was published June 20th, 21. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay, this one doesn't say this one does not say they got it for free in exchange for a review. 3.5 stars. Summary. A free-willed security cyborg seeks to rescue its original owner. And it's like, alright, that's at least more honest. Again, the framing is fucked because we're not acknowledging the slavery apologism or the fact that Murderbot is a slave and it's going to rescue its slave owner because Martha Wells is a racist, but whatever. Alright, this is a very short review. While Murderbot still retains its charm, the overall story is by now starting to wear thin. While the episodes of these separate novellas are fairly well contained, the arc of each is so similar that the stories are beginning to feel too familiar. While an interesting, if not novel, and then in parentheses, SIC, end parentheses, I always forget what that stands for. Let me literally just Google that. Besides, like, a joke, because we're calling it not novel? Is it a joke? No? I don't know why we're including that here. I was thinking of it correctly. It means that by putting that in here, we're quoting the original source. I'm confused, but okay. While an interesting, if not novel approach, I feel that Tor made a substantial mistake in publishing these pieces as individual books rather than as a few actual novels with more cohesion and larger arcs. While I'm enjoying it, because it's very blatant. Let me get a drink. That they literally took what was supposed to be one fucking novel and chopped it into 4 and sold each quarter for more than the price of a regular novel with none of the content of an actual novel to back it up. I feel that Tor made a substantial mistake in publishing these pieces as individual books, rather than as a few actual novels with more cohesion and larger arcs. While I'm enjoying each individually, I'm not really getting much out of the series as a whole. Within a novel, the similarity of tone and approach would have worked for the character instead of against it. As it is, I feel like I'm reading pretty much the same book every time. Yeah. The next in the series is an actual novel, so we'll see if that works better. For this story, fun, but by now very familiar. And then they get a commission on Amazon if you buy it from them with a link, which we're obviously not doing. Yeah, we're just gonna go through them all. And then I'll link it here, and you can read them yourself and give their website the activity they deserve for actually being honest, as opposed to pretty much everybody else. The one for Network Effect, this was published on June 7th, 2021. It has 4 stars. Summary. A security cyborg with a complex past accompanies the daughter of its prior owner. I won't complain, but we're just glossing over and lying. Murderbot. Mensa is not Murderbot's prior owner. She's its legal owner right now. On a survey trip that turns out to be much more complicated and dangerous than expected. Review. I've been arguing that Murderbot is not well served by format of the... They missed the word the. By the format of the previous extended series of novellas, and that its story would be better told in novel form. To my mind, Network Effect vindicates that assertion. By the end of the previous novella, I felt the Murderbot narrative was beginning to stagnate and that Murderbot itself had stopped developing emotionally. Network Effect addresses both these complaints. I wonder if this person's gonna, mention the whole big giant fucking promise that they made at the end of the book. Yeah. In this book, Murderbot meets up again with its friend ART, the ship bot that has featured in a couple of previous installments. Here, though, their relationship is at the center of the story, with Murderbot, reluctantly of course, facing some truths about itself. In this context, Murderbot's habitual, ironic, deadpan commentary takes on new life. Where in the last book it began to be tiring, same old, here it's again as endearing and fun as in the first book. While the book is strong, character-wise, the plot is... fine. Not entirely convincing, but plot has never really been the center of the series. Where I felt the book needed more attention was on basic editing. That's hilarious. And yeah, there's so many fucking scenes in this book that literally don't need to exist. It's literally just the characters sitting around it arguing about shit that does not fucking matter. We could have literally skipped past all that shit. Getting a drink quick. Where I felt the book needed more attention was on basic editing. The tense, in particular, in the latter half, is all over the place. That's complicated by the decision not to distinguish Murderbot's interior dialogue, present tense, in any way from the story action, past tense, since italics are used for network feed messages, also present tense. It's confusing at times, and I suspect the source of the errors in the prose as well. All told, I'm happy to see a Murderbot novel, and even happier that the shift does pull the narrative back out of the doldrums into which it had sailed. Oh, just you wait. This is literally the rut that the series is never escaping. This is a fun book. Don't give up an exit strategy. Here's hoping the next novel sees Murderbot continuing to develop. And then they link again to Amazon where they get a small commission. I want to know how much that commission is. Then, I have to hover over it. Their review for Fugitive Telemetry was published July 28th, 2021. This is the first time that she broke the promise that she made at the end of Network Effect. But this person did not mention the promise, so I guess we'll see. Summary. When a dead body That's so funny. I'm gonna laugh so much. I'm very tempted to just pause this video right now and wait until my twin gets back so I can read this summary out loud for everybody. As I keep saying, there's so many reviewers of this series who will admit that as soon as they put the book down, they forget everything that happened. Yeah, that's... Let me scroll down and see if they got this for free. Yep, that's even funnier. They got, at the very end of the thing, says in red, I received this book for free in exchange for an honest review. And to be clear, I'm not making fun of this reviewer for why I'm laughing right now. I'm making fun of the shit writing of the entire series because it's so badly written. There's no world building. Yeah, I'm not gonna wait. I'll just read it now. Yeah. When a dead body turns up on restoration station, this person's confusing preservation and calling it restoration instead because the books are so badly written that Murderbot gets involved for fear it may be a threat to its primary charge. I mean, I don't think that was exactly Murderbot's motivations, but alright, it's fine. Review. This series is shaping up to be an uneven one. Good novellas providing gradually less and less appeal, then a strong novel, now another good novella. Unfortunately, it feels too much like an episode to be satisfying, and I fear that more of the same will suffer the same decline as the first set of novellas. Yeah, that's because Martha Wells has literally no plan for the series. She doesn't believe in character development, and she's writing this whole thing like it's shitty fan fiction instead of an original series. That's why there's no world building. Wells continues to have the same strong voice, the same keen sense of balance, what to leave in, what to leave out, and Murderbot is fun to spend time with. But the story overall feels cropped. As part of a novel with a longer, more complex arc, it would have served well. As a standalone, I found it offered too little. I'm concerned about the future of this series. Voice-wise, it could go quite a long ways as Murderbot continues to grow and find itself. Chopped up into these little segments, though, I don't find it appealing. And it's like, hold on. Yeah. Maybe there's a market for a long series of novellas, but I'm finding it prevents me from getting very involved and prevents Murderbot from making much progress in its development, which makes it this into a series of little action thrillers without much character. Like, yeah, that she literally doesn't believe in character development, so Murderbot's literally never going to meaningfully change. There will never be a moment, as there always is with good TV shows in particular, where you finish the end of the series and then at some point you go back and start from the beginning and you're just in awe about how different the fucking characters are at the beginning as opposed to where they are at the end. Because that's how character development works. That's a shame, since Murderbot is such a great character to work with, and Wells is good at character. And then in parentheses, action too, but better at character. It's taking a bunch of great baking materials and making a bunch of microwave mug cakes instead of a real cake. It's smaller, but not as good, and I hope Tor wakes up and buys novels instead. That's a very funny metaphor. I'm gonna have to use that, but like, no, I won't get into that here. It's just funny, though. That's a funny. You can make an argument that this isn't too much shorter than many of the novels published in the 60s and early 70s. Huh? What? Since when? What? Nobody ever better make that argument. What? Nobody ever better make that argument or I'm beating you with a fucking frying pan. You can make an argument that this isn't too much shorter than many of the novels published in the 60s and early 70s, but those were intended as full novels and read that way, just quickly. This feels like it's intended as a quick fix, not a fully developed novel, so not the same thing. Alright, now we get to the final boss so far, System Collapse. This review was published July 26, 2023. It has 3.5 stars. Whoa. Alright. That's... okay. Alright, that's a bold stance. I'm not even gonna fucking comment on it. I think... I've spent too much fucking time with this goddamn fandom. Alright, it's just funny to me now. I can't even be mad anymore. Alright, are you ready for the summary listed here? Murderbot and her crew continue to explore a world affected by alien contamination, racing against a corporation to contact a group long separated from the rest. Review. I've said repeatedly that Tor and Wells erred in making this a serial, episodic novel rather than a standard big book or series of novels. It's uneven, with occasional stronger, longer pieces bolstering shorter, more muddled episodes. The main story is hard to keep track of. I read the last iteration just 2 years ago and struggled for most of this book to join the pieces up. Oh no, I hate. Nope, I made the mistake of rereading Network Effect immediately before reading System Collapse because I thought that would better prepare me. It did the opposite because System Collapse, the beginning of it, completely retcons and throws everything that happened at the end of Network Effect in the trash and doesn't explain itself. You are literally better off not reading the first book, the book before this, anytime soon, because the confusion of a lack of context is so much better than the overwhelming bafflement and excruciating confusion of, but that's literally not what was happening at the end. Why are you fucking lying to me? I read the last iteration just 2 years ago and struggled. This is the book that's being reviewed. The book being reviewed right now is the one that everybody is saying it jumped the shark to the point that I learned what that phrase meant. I read the last iteration just 2 years ago and struggled for most of this book to join the pieces up. And because Murderbot, while engaging, does similar things each time and has pretty much the same sardonic attitude throughout, it's hard to tell the episodes apart. Again, because Martha Wells doesn't believe in character development. Because she thinks real people don't change all that much, simply because she refuses to apologize for using racist tropes in her fantasy series in 2011, and would literally rather double down and defend British colonization than just admit that she used racist stereotypes and apologize for it. Here, Wells lays down some markers for Murderbot's character development, but presents them in such a muddled form, first redacted, then, halfway through the book, spelled out explicitly, that it's hard to do much with them. They are also clearly just markers, promises that we'll see Murderbot evolve, but not now. Maybe next time. In a series of peaks and valleys, I'm afraid this is one of the valleys. At this rate, I fear I could see the Murderbot Diaries go on and on and on. The same basic plot and tone repeated in every episode. Wells is a very talented writer, and Murderbot is a great character, but this episodic approach is not serving either of them well. And it's like, yeah, this is literally what people have been saying literally since 2018, when people literally saw in real time 4 fucking books being published 2 months apart, with it very blatantly clear that they had all already been pre-written and then chopped into 4. Whether you're new to Murderbot or a fan, I strongly recommend reading at least a couple of these books at a time, as if they were a larger book. I think you'll get much more out of the story that way than in these brief installments. Yeah, and that's literally why Tor keeps giving away the entire series for free, because it's ridiculous. Now for the hell of it, we're going to read the review of Witch King. Oh, it's loading. Okay. I was going to say, did it break the website? This Witch King, they gave 2.5 stars, and this review was published on April 20th, 2023. Summary. Powerful demon Kaisteron and his companion witch, imprisoned in a tomb under the sea, are awakened by a mage with more ambition than caution. Once free, they find a close companion is missing, and their search for her whirls them into a complex political web with its roots in the past. First of all, let's scroll down. Yes, they did get this for free in return for an honest review. Alright, okay, let's see. Review. I'm a big fan of Tamara Seiler, and then in parentheses, Tambo Jones's original Threads of Malice books, in part because they take place after an epic war between good and evil. So I guess we'll have to look up those books. Martha Wells tries to go that one better here in a dual-threaded story both before and after a vital revolution against evil. Unfortunately, Wells does a frankly poor job of laying out all the complex politics. Even at the end of the story, I had very little notion of who and what many of the key players were, and therefore no clear sense of the characters' motivations. Yeah, it's because the characters in Witch King are literally even more shallow than the characters in the Murderbot Diaries, and that shouldn't be possible because we don't even know what Rathy's job is or what his first name is. The only character out of the 9 introduced in All Systems Red whose full names we know is literally just one of them, and that's Ada Mensa. We know her first name is Ada. We know her last name is Mensa. We don't know anybody else's names at all. A key theme, for example, is a renewal that involves both Imperial Blessed and Earth and Rising... What? Okay, this person's very confused. This person's even more confused than I was when I was reading it, but that's to be expected. These terms are not correct at all. That's I'm not making fun of the reviewer for not getting these things right. I'm making fun of the writing because this is how bad it's written. A key theme, for example, is a renewal that involves both Imperial Blessed and Rising Earth. Neither of those terms exist in this book. They are thinking of the Immortal Blessed and the Rising World. But again, the book is so shit and is so poorly written that it's literally a miracle that I managed to get through to the end at all. I still have no real idea of what any of those three things is or why it was meant to matter. Why are we saying three things? Whatever. It looks as if the truth is that Wells is just an uneven writer. She clearly knows how to write engaging characters. Her Murderbot books are about almost nothing but engagement, and they're generally speaking very strong. Here, however, she pulls back sharply from the characters, and the result is cold and distant. I understood the emotions of Kai, the protagonist, but I didn't really feel any of them, and that's because she, again, I just keep saying this over and over again. I'm just going to have to keep repeating it until the ends of time. The fact that the Murderbot Diaries is written in first-person perspective, which is done so that she wouldn't actually have to use Murderbot's pronouns, the fact that it's in first-person perspective is literally artificially tricking people into thinking that they are much closer to Murderbot than they actually are. The fact that it is told in first-person perspective is automatically granting it a veneer of sincerity that is not present in any of her other books because she doesn't show us the emotions of the characters. She just tells us out of nowhere. A quote, my favorite fucking quote to make fun of from Witch King is Kai's just doing shit. Nothing whatsoever in the prose at all to imply that he might be feeling any kind of emotions until we get blah blah blah. That was probably why Kai was really fucking angry right now. And I'm never going to stop making fun of that because she just literally tells us out of nowhere that Kai is really fucking angry right now. And it's like, that comes out of nowhere. Nothing that he is doing or experiencing even implies that he's feeling even remotely upset, let alone really fucking angry. You'll see this sentiment of, I don't feel connected to these characters at all. It's like we're literally disassociating from the book I'm reading. It's because she's not describing a single fucking thing. She's just telling us everything in the most meaningless way. I understood the emotions of Kai, the protagonist, because we literally get told, oh, he's really fucking angry right now. But I didn't really feel any of them. Much is left to us to infer, e.g., Kai's relationship with key figure Bashasa, and while I did so, it didn't mean much to me, because she's also queer baiting in that book, as though it's not. It's 2023 when she published it, but it's like, why are you fucking queer baiting? And we know why. Wells also knows how to build intriguing worlds, as in her Raxura books, and does so again here, but not in any really coordinated manner. There are several different kinds of magic, and their nature and limitations are never really clear. We learn at the very start of the book about pearls that are placed, literally, in people's hearts, and that Kai has one. But we never learn what they do, how they work, or where Kai's came from. It's intriguing background, but most of it is never resolved and only sometimes essential to the plot. Yeah, we literally never got an explanation for where exactly Kai got his. We're told that the other people's are made of Kai's blood, but then when they discover that and make that shit is never in the story or explained in the story whatsoever. You would think that if it's being told to us in the present, we would get to see them figuring the shit out in the past, but no. I've liked some of Wells's books quite a lot, and some much less. Unfortunately, Witch King falls in this latter category. It's an interesting sketch of a novel that could have been, but that never really developed. Let's see if they have reviews. They have reviews for the books of the Raxura. Oh, 2 of them. That's not promising. We're just doing all of them now. Give this person more attention. So for the book 1 of the Books of the Raxura. They gave it 3 stars, and they wrote the review, published the review on June 18th, 2014. Summary. Moon, let's see it, hold on. Did they get this for free? Nope, but they do make a commission on Amazon. Moon, a solitary shape changer in a decaying world, is set out for sacrifice by the groundlings he's been living with. You're just misrepresenting that, but maybe that's the actual, I don't know. That's a misrepresentation. That's not true. He is rescued by a man who claims to be another of his kind and who needs his help. Okay, well, you should have, that's also misrepresenting what happened. Okay, review. I started reading Martha Wells 20 years ago when her debut novel, The Element of Fire, came out. I picked up her City of Bones soon after, and then The Death of the Necromancer and Wheel of the Infinite. With the first 2 books, I was enthralled. This was clearly a writer to watch, and I was surprised she didn't get more attention. Death of the Necromancer I found to be a bit too political for my taste. Too much courtly steampunk, not enough magic. Well, that doesn't bode well. Wheel of Infinite put her back on track. I was disappointed when Wells, in her next book, turned so heavily back to the Illyrian world of Element and Necromancer. The Fall of Illyrian books were fun, but not really exceptional, and I followed new releases less avidly than before. When I came across The Cloud Roads earlier this year, I was excited again. A new Wells book and series, and much more focused on classic fantasy. I'm sorry to say that it's been a bit of a letdown. Not in its content, which is great world-building fantasy, but in its writing. And I have to pause here because, again, no, there's not actually any world-building in this series. We're tricked into thinking that it's so deep, it's such a big world, there's so many cool, fantastical species here, but it's not world building. We get told, there's some random people with a random grab bag, as my twin has described it, grab bag mixture of random traits, and they only appear that one time, and they never come back ever again. So it's not world building to literally just pull a bunch of random fucking characteristics out of a goddamn hat and say, I'm making this up off the top of my head, there's a fantasy race / species, because these fucking things misuse the word race. There's a fantasy species, and they have green skin with neon green stripes and blue ears and blah blah blah. That's not world building. It's not world building if you literally just don't claw the sofa. You know this. It's not world building to just pull shit out of a hat for 5 seconds, and then they never come up again, and they don't mean anything. That's not world building. But she just does that a lot. So it tricks you into thinking that the world is bigger and more fleshed out than it actually is. It fooled me. I literally kept waiting for okay, can we learn about these people? No, we don't. It's just making shit up on the spot, and then it's forgotten again immediately. Where was that? It's been a bit of a letdown, not in its content, which is great world-building fantasy, but in its writing. Wells, whose writing I admired, simply doesn't do a great job of presentation. There's a complex world here, but its attributes sneak out bit by unexplained bit. Another asterisk. Nope, it's not actually complex. She just refuses to fucking explain things. It's actually very fucking simple. She just doesn't fucking explain things and makes things confusing on purpose, and people mistake being confused for the story being complex. It's not complex. She's just confusing people on purpose and refusing to explain what's going on and making up brand new words and redundant categories for literally no reason, and then nobody stopped her. Clearly, Wells is preserving some mystery for discovery in later books, but she does so in a way that is frustrating here and now. There's simply not enough background for some of the hints, even when viewed from the perspective of Moon, who is as ignorant of some of this as we are. There are some prequel short stories available, and perhaps Wells assumes acquaintance with those. Strange, considering some have just come out on the market. More likely, she simply knows the world so well, she forgets we don't. And again, as I keep saying, maybe not recently, Final Fantasy X is a fantastic example of how to do stuff. I'm not even going to describe it. But the books of the Raxura is so shittily written, and it didn't fucking have to be. We are following the perspective, it's third-person perspective, but we're following Moon, who is an outsider to the culture that's about to be introduced. So it should be very easy, because Moon doesn't know any of this shit, to simply introduce the readers to the thing as Moon learns it. But then we don't do that. And then him being an outsider is completely meaningless because he doesn't bring any new perspectives or do anything to help anyone at all. It's, again, Martha Wells' favorite thing ever is literally just protect and uphold the status quo no matter what. The great foe in this book are the Fel, another shape-changing race that is disappointingly one-dimensional. They are evil, ... because they just are. And they smell bad too, to boot. Naturally, most of them are unintelligent and brutish. And then parentheses, one can make a case that foes tend to be foes because they're brutish, but most fantasists don't bother with more than a sheen of exploration, and Wells is no exception. There's a smidgen of complication offered toward the end, but basically the world is black and white. This despite the fact that both the good and the bad shape changers have rigidly hierarchical, genetically based societies. Not a lot of democracy going on. And then we're just supposed to be completely fine with that. We're not, and so much. It's literally just saying, yeah, white supremacist cults are good and you should join them and you shouldn't challenge them in any way. Women literally, the end goal of the books of the Raxura, the ending theme, literally the last few fucking lines is that women should stay in the kitchen and in the home instead of going outside where their poor, benighted husbands would have to worry about them being in danger because women are helpless and need to be protected by men. That's literally the fucking theme of the entire series. That's what she decided to end it on. That's the lesson that the character learned at the end, that women do belong in the house because women are pathetic and weak and shouldn't have to worry their husbands. There's a lot that's unexplained, e.g. how one class of shape-changer suddenly shifts into another in response to demographic pressures, but also quite a bit that pops out unexpectedly. Moon suddenly knows things that we, following right along with him, have never encountered. Moon's own decisions at times are a bit thin. He makes the occasional pretense of protest, but it's usually clear where the book is going. There's no major risk of an unexpected turn. I may need to go back to City of Bones. It's possible that I was so taken with the concept and setting that I set aside unexceptional writing. That's not how I remember it, though, and for the present, I simply wonder what happened to the Wells of the 90s and whether she'll be back. That's very funny, because I did read City of Bones, and it's just kind of more of the same. And she also just... she has her male protagonist casually think about threatening to rape the female protagonist, and this is just presented as totally normal and fine, and we're not supposed to be horrified or anything. It's really fucking disgusting. I'm disappointed, but while the writing here may not be stellar, the story is fairly good. I'm undecided whether to read the rest of the series. If you're looking for decent fantasy in a well-imagined world, one that's more than just medieval with dragons, this book is a good choice. If you're looking for sophisticated philosophical writing, try A. Atanasio. So I'll have to look up that name as well. Cool. Okay, one more review that this person has written for books of hers that I've read. I guess maybe we'll find the City of Bones and see if they updated it. This review was published May 23rd, 2015. This is the second book in the Books of the Raxura. They gave it 2.5 stars. Let me get a drink quick. Summary. Moon and the Indigo Cloud Court of Raxura shapeshifters have lost their home and are returning to the court's original location. Oh, did I mention another theme is that, immigration is bad and you should always stick to your homeland because everywhere else is bad and stuff. It's not examined in any way. When they reach it, they find looters have stolen the heart seed, without which their home tree is dying. Moon and the other Raksura set out to track down the seed and recover it. That's a pretty good summary. They didn't really lose their home, they just left. They were literally planning to leave before Moon got there, but whatever. Review. If there weren't plenty of evidence against it, I'd think that Martha Wells, who wrote this book, and the one who wrote City of Bones are completely different people. City of Bones and Wells' other early books are interesting and well written. The Raksura books, on the other hand, are distinctly average. This is very funny. I read Wheel of the Infinite. It's bad. Wells has come up with an interesting world for the Raksura, so it's not a failure of invention that plagues the series, though there are weak points like cost-free magic. Most writers get better as they age, unless they get distracted by particular obsessions. But Wells' Raksura books simply don't seem very well constructed. It's 'cause they're not. I'm gonna read them on screen the way I'm reading the Murderbot Diaries at some point. There's a persuasive feeling of action for There's a pervasive feeling of action for the sake of plot, rather than as a result of natural character choices. Yeah, you can literally say that for every single thing Martha Wells has ever written. For example, late in the book, some of the characters have escaped danger and should be free to go. For no reason at all, they presume antagonism in a new set of encounters. It's clearly meant to heighten the tension, but fails because there's simply no reason for it to happen. It's confounding and frustrating rather than exciting. There are similar moments throughout, as if Wells has mysteriously lost her ability to construct credible characters and story. Because so many character actions don't make sense, the story is not very interesting to follow. Yeah, literally nothing. It literally doesn't fucking make sense. You know, kind of like the end of All Systems Red, where the plot is resolved by the bad guys being told, hey, we're going to set off that bomb over there. And then they literally go over as fast as they possibly can to stand directly in front of the bomb and just stare at it. Literally, I'm not joking. I'm never getting over that. The story is unfortunately also an entry in the might makes right subgenre. Most of the character relations in the book are based heavily and often explicitly on do as I say or I'll beat you up. Happily for us, the hero is bigger, stronger, and meaner than the bad guys. It's a lazy and distinctly unappealing approach to character building. Even Conan had a little more depth. There's a distinct racial/special element to the story as well, with the Raksura treating groundlings, in parentheses, humans, as a distinctly lower class. As a note, there are no humans in this setting, but the Raksura are pretty much humans who turn into dragon furries. There's, again, like with the Murderbot Diaries, as I've been pointing out forever, Martha Wells' lack of descriptions for basic shit is not new. It's not limited to the Murderbot Diaries. It cannot be written off as, oh, well, that's just because Murderbot's an unreliable narrator. No, it's not an unreliable narrator. No, it doesn't make sense for Murderbot as a character, and this is literally what she's been doing her entire writing career. Hold on. With the Raksura treating groundlings as a distinctly lower class. There's never much introspection about this. The Raksura are simply high-handed in how they treat other species, and they get away with it without a second thought. For example, one quote-unquote waterling who answers their questions, a bit grudgingly, is dumped far out of his way because ... Why not, if that's what the Raksura feel like? Equally unappealing is the double standard the Raksura use. When they do something, well, they're the good guys. When others do the same, it's shocking! There's not much character recognition of this, even when the parallels are painfully obvious. This has literally never been more fucking blatant than literally book 2 of the Murderbot Diaries. Murderbot instantaneously and mercilessly wipes some bot's memories and invades their fucking brain. And that's presented as so much of a non-issue that we barely comment on it. It's there and gone. Blink and you miss it. Accidentally skip one sentence lower and you will never miss it. You'll never see it. But then when Murderbot is threatened with having its memories erased and its brain invaded, oh, that would be horrible and scary. We should feel bad for Murderbot for just being threatened with a thing that... Yeah, it's called protagonist-centered morality, and Martha Wells does it all the time because her protagonists are literally just her fucking mouthpieces for how she thinks the world should be. And it's obvious that that's what's going on because, like, it is extremely possible, people do it all the fucking time, to write a protagonist who's a terrible person that you don't agree with. It's just that Martha Wells literally does agree with what her characters do. There are other inconsistencies in the story and setting. They'd be minor issues if it weren't for the above, though there are a few key points that simply make no sense, including one related to the core of the story, the special seed they spend so much time searching for. I use the word lazy to describe the writing. Perhaps that's harsh, but I'm not sure what else to think. There's a lot of good in this series, but so many flaws that it just doesn't work. Yet Wells' early books were quite good. Perhaps she's under time or other pressure. Whatever the cause, the result is far from the skilled presentation I expected. Some people clearly like the series, but my feelings is that if you loved City of Bones, you'll be pretty disappointed by the books of the Raxura. The title, by the way, is misleading. There's a sea, certainly, but little in the way of serpents, because this book is called The Serpent Sea. There's exactly one giant sea monster, which is just a giant whale thing. It's like, yeah, it's not true. All right, now we have to see if they have a City of Bones review. Is that linked here? Can I link it? Well, okay. Can I type, please? Let's see their City of Bones review, and then I'll be done. Oh, oh. I'm confused. It's showing the brand new cover. Ew, updated and revised. I don't know if I trust that then. No, I'm not gonna read that. I don't give a shit about what retcons she made, if any, when the books got republished. Alright, yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.